So I continued to roller coaster over the years with yo-yo dieting, binge eating, purging, and then I decided to opt for lap band surgery, and that also failed to work for me. I weighed in at around 770 pounds. I was pre-diabetic. I was diagnosed with an underactive thyroid, sleep apnea. My eyesight was deteriorating. I had no idea what my weight was on my 50th because my scale just displayed error. 22 months into the carnivore diet, and as of this morning, I'm down to 293 pounds. Everything in my life has improved. I've got my life back. There's no pain. I'm mobile. Look at everything. I can't give you any negatives about my life right now.
Morning to you, Lindy. We have, like I said, Lindy is our guest today, is going to share what I think sounds like a pretty dramatic and incredible success story. So with that, welcome. What time is it there where you are? And where exactly in Australia are you, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and it's 8 a.m. this morning. So there's a Friday morning here, 8 a.m. Friday morning.
So you are in Victoria. All right. Very interesting. The former lockdown capital of the world over the last few years of interest. But
it was awful.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people didn't like it there. Well, welcome and glad to have you here. And I just found out about you not that long ago. I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And I've been doing this carnivore thing for, a number of years now, as you may know. And I continually just get to see these amazing, incredible, wow, knock your socks off type of things. And yours is certainly one of those. And so why don't we just start out with maybe you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are, where you grew up, a little bit about what you've done, and then we'll get into your story if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm 52 years old and I'm married with two beautiful daughters, aged 33 and 20. And I've been in Melbourne all my life, so Melbourne, Victoria. I come from an Italian background. My father's actually English, so I have the English complexion, whereas my sister is more the Italian dark hair, olive skin, which I'm very, very jealous of. So being Italian, food's always been a very important part of our life. Most of the family was on the larger side. As a kid, I was painfully shy and I had very, very low self-esteem. And I found comfort in eating, which is where my unhealthy relationship with food began. When I was 21 years old, I was admitted to hospital with severe pain and they found I had gallstones, so they removed my gallbladder. And at 25 years old, my weight was around 300 pounds. I tried many diets. I would lose some weight and then just put it all back on plus more. I struggled to moderate my food. It was just like I didn't have an off switch. I wasn't hungry. I just ate for any emotion at all. It just had a hold over me. So I continued to roller coaster over the years with yo-yo dieting, binge eating, purging, and then I decided to opt for lap band surgery, and that also failed to work for me. Lap band surgery restricts how much that I can eat in a sitting, but it didn't address my unhealthy relationship with food. And when I was 30 years old, my mother was diagnosed with lung and brain cancer. And at the same time, my oldest daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and she developed severe depression and suicidal tendencies. So I was the primary carer for both and juggled many hospital admissions and doctor's appointments, all while working full time. So it was a really difficult 7 years of my life. Mum lost her battle with cancer, and then my dad passed away from cancer a few months later. He'd kept his condition hidden from us because he didn't want us to worry about it. A few years later, my oldest daughter, she was feeling better and decided to move out with friends. And my husband and youngest daughter were pretty independent and happy, and they didn't really need me to care for them in that capacity. So I suddenly felt alone. Nobody needed me anymore. My self-care had been pretty non-existent, and I just had no idea who Lindy was anymore. So I threw myself into work, and comfort eating was the only way that I knew how to deal with my loss. In 2016, I weighed in at around 770 pounds. I was pre-diabetic. I was diagnosed with an underactive thyroid, sleep apnea. My eyesight was deteriorating. I've got lymphedema and lipedema, neuropathy in my feet. I had migraines every other week, severe joint pain, mobility, balance issues, high inflammation markers. The doctor said that she had never seen inflammation markers as high as mine. Severe periodontal disease, brain fog, no energy. I was just numb to life. And depression and anxiety. I just hated myself and I hated my life. I was a real mess. The doctor ordered a bunch of tests and I just went home and cried. I was just so embarrassed and I wanted to hide. I'd hit rock bottom and I used to go to bed just hoping that I wouldn't wake up. And fast forward to July 2021, I turned 50 and I was pretty much housebound. I was still working full-time from home. I work predominantly on emails. My clients have been in the US, so it's all email-based, and people would think I sounded very confident and capable on email, but they couldn't see what was going on behind the screen, and I was pretty much a disaster on the other side of the screen. I had no idea what my weight was on my 50th because my scale just displayed error. And I just had no way of measuring myself unless I went to an industrial facility or something. So I imagine I was close, if not above 800 pounds by this stage. Mm-hmm. I was now the same age as my mother was when she was diagnosed with cancer. And I just remember how I felt. I was scared at the thought of losing my mum. And then it hit me how my daughters must be feeling now watching me slowly kill myself. So I decided I had to try and regain my life back. My sister, she lost a lot of weight on keto and she recommended that I watch Dr. Ken Berry. So I tried keto, but I hated weighing the food and I found the macros really confusing. There were so many keto recipes, keto lasagna, keto cheesecake, and these foods, they just reminded me of my comfort foods. And again, I struggled to moderate those. So then I stumbled on Dr. Berry's Carnivore videos and I thought, wow, he's crazy. But I wasn't going to live much longer doing what I was doing. So I jumped into the carnivore diet. And I struggled for 6 months as I hadn't really addressed my emotional eating issues. So I reached out to Coach Emily from Steak and Butter Gang in January 2022. And this was the start of my new life. I met with Emily and Raymond via Zoom weekly for personal coaching, and they helped me to work through my issues of comfort eating and also dealing with negative comments from family and friends. And they were just always there, ready to motivate and cheer me on. And honestly, they saved my life. So today I'm 22 months into the carnivore diet. And as of this morning, I'm down to 293 pounds. My doctor is really happy with me. All my blood markers are perfect. I'm no longer pre-diabetic. I no longer experience migraines. Lymphedema and lipedema symptoms have all improved. Depression and anxiety are gone. Mobility, balance, and joint pain have all improved. My mental clarity is amazing. I've got no more brain fog. I feel energized every morning, and I can now make better choices when difficult situations arise. So I no longer turn to food for comfort anymore. Look, I believe the reason the carnivore diet's worked for me personally is that my brain now has that off switch that I didn't have before. The food freedom I experience has been an absolute game changer. And look, I finally have my life back. So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell.
Let me, that is an incredible, I'd like to just delve into it a little bit more. You said at somewhere in your 20s, you'd already reached 300 pounds, which you're now lighter than, I guess, for the first time in 30 years, maybe. Gosh, it's amazing to think about that. And during this time, obviously you notice, hey, I'm putting on weight. Maybe I don't like it. I'm trying these different diets. You had a cholecystectomy, your gallbladder was removed. During that time, what kind of advice were you given as far as diet, and what kind of diets did you try outside of, we hear about calorie counting, we hear about maybe plant-based diets, maybe Mediterranean style diets. What things did you try, and why do you think they failed for you?
Oh, gosh, I've tried so many diets. I did all the Weight Watchers. I did snake juice diet. Chris Powell's biggest loser diet from Shellbridges. I tried all the light and easy meals and pre-packaged meal diets, Jenny Craig's, Gloria Marshall back in the day, paleo. I did try vegan, all the juicing. I got a NutriBullet and juiced all my things. But this is the cravings were just intense. Like I just didn't have that off switch. I'd have my food. The restriction was really difficult. You just felt like it was torture almost, having all these noises in my head. And the emotional issues, that was really hard to fight through that, because I developed obviously really bad habits from my childhood, just eating for comfort. And so I had to address that issue first. I think the reason Carnivore works, as I said, I've got that off switch now, which I didn't have before. And I found recently I did have a bit of pumpkin at a social gathering, and the sweet taste was enough to trigger cravings again and turn that beast back on. And like on the way home from this function, I was craving so bad that I quickly went home, fried up an air fried a steak, and took 3 bites, and that craving was gone. So obviously that sweet taste was triggering the carb monster, if you like. And so now that I'm aware of that, it's something I can look out for, and I know how to fix it now. But obviously I had no idea before. So I've definitely learned a lot more about my body and how it reacts to the different foods, which I didn't have before.
What, just weighing 800 pounds at some point, I can imagine what quality of life would be like. You can't be that. I literally interviewed another fellow, similar situation, up similar weight, and also has lost hundreds of pounds using Carnivore. And he described a life to me, which was almost like a living hell in a way. It's just, you said you were still able to move, you're relatively mobile still, but I can imagine it had been incredibly difficult. I can't imagine you're not out walking to the grocery store and doing all these things. What was your life like at max weight, 800 pounds or so?
Oh, I was housebound. I literally didn't go out at all. I couldn't fit behind the wheel of a car, so there was no way I could get out of the house anyway. I could walk from the bedroom to the toilet to the couch. Walking around the house, I have seats everywhere, seat in the laundry, seat in the kitchen. So I just walk from chair to chair because I couldn't stand for long enough to hold my weight up. I was just too heavy for my body to be able to stand up for more than 30, 40 seconds. So everything was a struggle. Everything hurt. I was in constant pain. Like I didn't know life without pain at all. And I just slept. Like I worked and I'd get up, come in here, and I literally fall asleep on my keyboard while I was working. And then I have to go and sit down, and I never ate breakfast, and sometimes I wouldn't even eat lunch. But at dinner time, it would come up and Hub's husband would come home and it was, I haven't eaten all day. And then he'd make up for it at night, just before bed, and he'd just carb up and 2 meals. And then it was like, okay, what are we going to have for a snack? And then it was a terrible, I don't know whether it was habit and just, it was just really, really, really bad. Yeah, that's all changed now.
When you had the lap band surgery, the band is reversible, fortunately, because at least you don't lose your stomach or part of your stomach. What were you told at that time? This is going to fix the problem, or we're pretty confident it'll fix the problem? Or what was the expectation that convinced you to go ahead and proceed with that particular procedure?
They made me drink the Octifast Shakes prior to surgery to shrink my liver. I think was the purpose of doing that before they could do the surgery. And then after that, it was just basically you could only eat about a thimble full of food at a time. And so eating those small amounts, and they didn't say what you had to eat, just the balanced diet. That was really all. But you are restricted, and I still have the restriction today, but it's not as it was loosened. I couldn't tell you how many, probably 15 years ago, it was loosened a little bit because I had stretched my pouch, and they thought at the time I wasn't gaining weight because of, I just lost my mum. And they said, we'll loosen it for a bit and then come back and we'll tighten it again. And I never went back. But yeah, you learn what you can eat. It's easy to have ice cream and all those, the carb drinks. They go down pretty easily. And like meat and things like that was difficult. So you just stay away from the good stuff and have all the bad processed foods, which were easy to get down. No, it didn't really help at all.
Was there any sort of behavioral treatment that went with that procedure? Where a lot of times obviously there's a psychological component. Do they say, we're going to send you through this sort of behavioral or psychological support stuff, or is just, we're going to throw the band in there and you're good to go?
Yeah, pretty much. Did the band and that was it. Sent me home.
Did you
no follow-up, nothing.
Did you have, I know with the fellow, Todd is his name that I interviewed, and he was sodas, sweetened beverages was his thing. You'd drink 10, 15, 20 of them a day. Was that part of your mix? Were you doing a lot of these sugar sweetened beverages?
Definitely. Ice cream was my crutch. I loved ice cream, and that was easy to get down. And I guess that's from my dad and my grandmother on his side. They were both monsters. They loved their ice cream, and I've inherited that as well. I didn't have too many soft drinks. Probably during COVID we did. We did have a lot of soft drinks then, but prior to that I wasn't really into soft drink too much. But yeah, chocolate was easy as well to get down.
So a lot of sweet stuff. Would you consider yourself maybe a sugar addict? Would that be a fair assessment?
Oh, definitely. Sweet triggers me for sure. Yeah. And that's why even now vegetables, something like a pumpkin that has a sweet taste, and that was enough to trigger me to my head to go off again and get those cravings again. So yeah, definitely.
What was your view around meat, and particularly red meat, like maybe growing up or through your early adulthood? Was it something you just ate when you could and didn't care about it, or were you told it was bad for you? Or did you have that taught to you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Meat's no good, especially fatty meat. You stay away from that. My mum was always on a diet, and she was restricting a lot. She just had a lot of vegetables. There was no meat. My dad loved his steak and he loved his bacon, but he loved it with bread and all the bad things that go with it. She'd always make 2 meals, one especially for Dad, and then she'd feed my sister and herself and myself what she thought were healthier meals, because that's what she believed back then. She just followed the diet guidelines, and meat was definitely not on the menu too much.
Yeah, Australia is one of the countries that consumes quite a bit of red meat. Beef and lamb are very popular there, but still, the U.S. dietary guidelines don't really support that, and Australia adopts it. Let me ask you, you mentioned depression and some of these other, psychological impacts, which I can't imagine not being depressed in that situation. Honestly, I just couldn't imagine being happy about it. But did you ever feel like you tried these things, you tried the diets, you had a lap band surgery? I don't know if you'd been on medications or not, but did you ever feel like you were powerless, that it was hopeless? Was that ever a thought of yours?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I felt like a failure because I'd failed every diet. I couldn't eat a balanced diet. I just didn't know how to moderate. The cravings were just too severe. And I would go on diets. Every other week I was on a diet. And I'd last 2 days and then I'd just fall off again. And then I'd hate myself. And it was like, I'll start again next Monday, or I'll start on the 1st of the month. And that was my life the whole time. So yeah, it was always on my mind. I knew I had to lose weight, and I knew what I had to do to eat a balanced diet and all the other diets, but none of them worked. Nothing was sustainable for me. So yeah, I just couldn't keep it.
Yeah.
Keep on it.
Yeah, it's funny because people will say that even if your diet recommendations are good, if no one can stick to them, then how useful are they? How useful are they that you say eat a small amount of whole grains and fruits and vegetables and lean meats, and yet when people attempt to do it, they continuously fail. So you got to question the validity of the recommendations. When you started a carnivore diet, what did that look like to you? How did you start this thing?
Just steak. I love steak. We have porterhouse. I'm not sure if that's what you call it there in the US, but that's quite a nice steak. And
yeah, I think
maybe a couple of eggs.
I think a porterhouse we call a New York strip. It's like it's like half of a. I don't know if you guys have a T-bone, but yeah, I think that's the translation, because it's funny how different countries called different things by different names. But, so you started out just straight up steak. Was that the entrance?
Pretty much, yeah. I do steak. I find it difficult to eat ground beef. I just find it very, very dry. Whereas the steak, I like to have it very rare, and I just find that goes down a lot easier with the lap band restriction that I have. It normally takes me about an hour to eat a steak, sometimes an hour and a half, because I cut it up into little pieces and just eat a little bit at a time. I started off maybe 2 meals a day, but yeah, sometimes it'll be half a steak in the morning and then the rest for the second meal. because I just can't eat the large quantities with the lap bands. And that's basically what I did. I just have raw egg yolks. I stay away from the whites because I hear they're inflammatory. I don't know if they really do anything for me, like give me inflammation. I just choose not to have them and just have the raw egg yolks with my steak. I'd stay away from dairy. I find I can't moderate dairy. So dairy is something that I'll have on special occasions. If we go out, I'll have a bit of cheese or something like that, but I never have it in the house otherwise. Again, just the moderation thing, I try to avoid it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you tell people to moderate foods, which they cannot moderate. It doesn't work very well. Let me ask you, because I think we see a lot of the incidence of obesity is increasing clearly. We have more and more people obese and more people fall into this sort of morbid and super morbid obesity categories where that's coming on. And now we see people saying that there's nothing you can do about it. To meet Fatima Stanford, a doctor at Harvard, telling people obesity is just a disease and it's all genetic and there's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter about diet, doesn't matter about exercise. Really, you just need to take drugs. And that's the message we're getting, that if you're obese, there's nothing you can do about it, accept it, and maybe even celebrate it. We're seeing this body positivity, healthy at any size, I'm beautiful. And you see that, and you often see it with the younger folks. They're in their 20s, and it's probably easy to say, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just going to accept it. But you're now in your 50s, and do you think that messaging is net harmful, net beneficial? Or what are your thoughts about this body positivity thing? Do you think it's like, hey, if I'm 300 pounds, maybe I should not accept that, and maybe I should change something to improve that? Or do you think just let everybody we just celebrate it and be done with it?
I think it is important to love yourself, because I hated myself and I'm now starting to learn to love myself a lot more. But at that size, I was unhealthy and I felt like crap. So how can you be positive about that? I couldn't go into a normal shop and buy clothes off the rack. I couldn't do normal things, and I wanted to be normal. So I don't agree with the whole body positivity sort of movement, but I do think you should love yourself, and that's something that you really need to learn to do. No matter what size you are, you should love yourself. But yeah, I don't think people should. You need to feel good. And I think a lot of people just mask that and hide the way that they're feeling and maybe use that as a bit of a I don't know, camouflage, if you like, to hide their true feelings. But at that size, you can't feel normal or healthy and happy.
Yeah, I'm sure people just would look at you like it's not every day you see someone who's 600, 700, 800 pounds. 300 is pretty common these days, but when you start getting to that size. And when you talk about loving yourself, part of loving yourself is taking care of your health, I would argue. And I think that's important. And when you get in this situation where you've tried everything and you're really trying, and you feel, I can see where this vicious cycle sets up, that I'm trying to do the right thing for myself, but I can't get over this addiction. I can't get past the crave. That's a tough situation to be. And a lot of people, the criticism that I've heard about carnivore in a lot of cases, oh, it's so restrictive. I don't get to eat bread and pasta and sugar and fruit and blah, blah, blah. And yet this has actually been more or less freeing for you, I would say. Would you say it's given you some degree of freedom, perhaps? Freedom from these horrible, addictive type of cravings and situations. Is that fair to say?
What's restrictive is being 800 pounds and being confined to my house and not being able to get out and enjoy life. That is more restricting than my diet. I enjoy eating meat. I choose to eat meat now. I love the feeling that I get from it. I feel amazing. I have my life back. So to me, Carnival is not restrictive at all, and it's simple. I just eat meat and my brain turns off and then I go and live my life. What's restricting about that? So, yeah, life at 800 pounds, that is restrictive. So when people say that, that's not even an argument for me. I don't even entertain that thought.
Let me ask you, because I had mentioned that I was going to be interviewing you and that you'd lost somewhere north of 400 pounds, maybe 500 pounds, it sounds like, in a relatively short time. Give me the time frame again. It was July of 2021 where you started this? Is that, or when did you start again?
Yes, 22 months now.
22 months, and you've lost like 500 pounds. Yeah. That people are saying that this doesn't add up. I can't imagine how you could lose, because that's 5 pounds a week for 22 weeks or something, like 22 months.
Yeah. Well, the thing they don't understand is that it's not all fat loss. I had a lot of edema in my body. So a lot of that would have been edema, the fluid.
What did it look like? Did you, like the first month, did you lose like 50 pounds? And then you probably couldn't even weigh yourself initially, but did you notice, how did you feel? And what were the fluctuations that are occurring very early on? Did you all of a sudden notice something? When did it snap to you that this is something different than anything I'd ever tried before?
When I started in January, I was talking with Raymond and Emily, Coach Raymond and Coach Emily from SBG Gangs. I couldn't weigh myself, but I was 770 pounds back in 2016. That's when I was weighed at the doctor's office. So that was my official weight back then. And then COVID happened. We had takeout every night. So for sure, I was definitely over 800 pounds by then. So when I started in January 2021, we just assumed that I was around 800 pounds. And I keep checking the scale. Like, I was feeling really good. I jumped on the scale and it was ERR. And then that was just demotivating seeing that. So I stopped on hopping on the scale.
What was the scale supposed to go up to? Because it's showing error of a lot of them is over 300 pounds, 350, 400 pounds. I mean,
no, I got a 700 pound scale.
Okay. So you were over 700 for a while. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, and in 4 months, when I jumped on the scale, I actually got my first number. And sorry, I've got my image. I think I sent you my picture and it's got my faces on it.
Yeah, I do. I do have that. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever the number was on there, that was my first reading. I had to jump on it like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, my God, my scales are not broken. Like, I honestly thought the scales were broken. And since that day, I've never had an ERR reading again. So obviously there was nothing wrong with my scales. I was definitely way up. It took 4 months to get down to whatever that number was.
So somewhere over 100 pounds in 4 months or something like that.
Yeah.
And how are you feeling? Did you notice like, hey, I just don't feel as bad? Did things start to improve even before you got to the actual number while you were getting the errors?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I did notice in some photos and like my composition was changing, especially in my face. I could see the difference. Just I wasn't as puffy. My fingers, I could barely bend them. They were just so full of fluid. My legs, the inflammation all over my body. I was real swollen all over. I was like the Michelin Man. And I just felt my mobility was getting better. I wasn't as sore. I was getting up in the morning and I was just happier. And yeah, I still felt, even now, I still have a long way to go until I reach my goal weight, or not that I have a goal weight, but until I feel normal. But yeah, even now, I still get a lot of NSVs, a lot of benefits, and I just feel better every day as I do this. Yeah.
So you're losing all this weight, you're feeling better. Was your family supportive through the whole time? Did they think, hey, carnivore diet's crazy, or because they've probably seen you try different diets and say, oh, she's just on another one of her loopy diets and she's going to be done in a week. What was the response from the family? Were they supportive and obviously now they have to have noticed it now, but how did that go early on with the family and friends and people?
Yeah, my husband and my daughters, they're fantastic. They've been supportive all the way through. My husband, I call him a dirty carnivore. He is carnivore at home with me, but he does have his little treats out and about, which is fine. I'm cool with that. My daughters are not carnivore, but they love the new mum. They love the fact that I've got my life back. We're actually going out now and doing things together, just the girls, the 3 of us. And yeah, they're just so happy. But external family, like extended family, they all think I'm crazy. I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to die of scurvy. Where do you get your vegetables from? What no fibre, all the usual stuff. And even now, they still see an amazing transformation. Some people will say, wow, and other people don't say anything. And I just figure them, maybe they don't want to say anything because they just don't want to make an issue of it, or they know what I'm doing. But yeah, I don't understand why some people don't say anything, and you think, do they notice that I've changed? And then other people, they're like, oh my gosh, who are you? I didn't recognize you, kind of things. Yeah, but we've actually lost quite a few friends. And I think because we're now too difficult to feed if we were to go out socially, or yeah, I think they think we're loopy or something. To me, I don't care. We do what we do.
How, obviously, You mentioned, obviously, you had your gallbladder out, you had lap band surgery. I imagine you've had physicians interacting with you throughout your life, I would imagine. And were any of them around during this weight loss where you're like suddenly losing 200, 300 pounds? And what has the response been, if any?
Look, not really. I ended up in hospital in pain, and I had my gallbladder out, and that was it. Didn't go back to a doctor. I've never been the type of person that goes to doctors too much, mainly because we've had a lot of sickness in the family, and we've been doing doctors to and fro with everybody else, and there has been a lot of neglect seeing that. And so my faith in doctors hasn't been very strong. So I have avoided the doctors, and I really only go if I'm really desperate. And I did go when I decided to try Carnival, and I went and had a full blood panel just to have the doctor monitor my levels and everything, and then see after. She was totally against Carnivore when I went in, and I just said, look, please give me 3 months. And then when I come back, do my panels. And if things are really bad, then I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but just give me 3 months. So she agreed to that. And yeah, when I went back, she was like, oh my gosh, we've turned everything around. And she was so happy for me. But then she gave me a lecture about leptins and ghrelins and all this other stuff. And then, by the way, I'm actually leaving the practice. I'm going to a bariatric centre. And when you fail, here's my card. Come and see me.
When you fail.
I lost 400 pounds, and you want me to come and see you when I fail. So that just lit a fire under my belly. And I just said, okay, we'll come and see you when I've lost all my weight and reached my goal. I will come and see you. And yeah, so my faith in doctors hasn't been too good. I have seen another doctor like a few months ago. She was a brand new one, very young doctor, and she was open to Carnivore, and she did all my blood panel, and she was like, wow, everything's amazing. All my levels are looking fantastic. She said, I don't need to see you for another year. Keep doing what you're doing. If you change your diet or if something else happens, come and see me. But if you keep doing what you're doing, I don't need to see you for another year. I'm like, fantastic. I've got her blessing now, and I'm happy with the way things are going. The doctor's happy, so why change anything now? So
yeah, good for you for sticking to your guns, for one. And I'm always disappointed when I hear like that type of attitude. You're going to fail, and you're going to need me in whatever, a year, and I'll do your gastric bypass or something like that. So you've lost, in 22 months, you've lost roughly 500 pounds. That's mind-boggling to think about how that's possible. We're thinking about it's 3,000 calories a day if you convert it into weight. That would be the difference if that number held up, and there's some people that debate about how accurate that is. But so at 800 pounds, you were probably not running and doing a lot of exercise, maybe not even yet. How much would you contribute your weight loss to purely the diet, or was there changes in activity level or any other thing that was a major factor for you?
100% diet for me. I physically can't do exercise, or I couldn't do exercise. I'm starting to try and jump on the treadmill a little bit, but I have a very bad hip. It's when I walk for too long, I feel like my hip, that it's going to pop out of its socket. The pain is quite severe. And so if I walk, I can manage 10 minutes on a treadmill now, and anything more, I can't walk for a couple of days because it's so bad, the pain. The back pain, like I couldn't do any exercise before, so it was purely diet that got me to where I was. And as I've started to feel better, there's a little bit more movement around the house. I can actually go around and do things. My husband used to do all the housework because I couldn't do much physically. I just couldn't cope. So he'd go to work, come home, do everything for me. He's just been amazing. Now I'm doing the stuff I've taken over now, which he's still around and still very grateful for that. But yeah, exercise, it is something that obviously I want to do because I know it's good for me, but I still struggle. And then I have a lot of loose skin, like my stomach, it just hangs. I can't wear pants like trousers because the weight of it is just too much. So going out and doing things is difficult like that. and it's just in the way. So
have you thought about or do plan to do like skin removal surgery? I know a lot of people that come from very morbid obesity will lose a lot of weight and then they'll end up skin resections. Is that something that's on your mind? Are you thinking about doing that at some point?
I've actually booked in to see a surgeon, and there's a 2-year waiting list, and I'm actually due to see him in January next year. So that was my goal, was to try and get as much off and hopefully be in a position that I could have my belly removed. But I lost my job last month. And so I'm still going to keep my appointment and go, and see what my options are. But I just don't think it's going to be on the table anymore. It is what it is. I just have to put up with it. I'd rather have the loose skin than go back to 800 pounds. There's no way I'm going back there.
Sure.
Loose skin I can live with.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because the skin probably weighs 40 or 50 pounds. When you think about that, you probably even lost relative to where you were. Of course, you said it was a fluid and swelling, but you've undoubtedly lost hundreds of pounds of adipose tissue. I'm sure that's been the case. When some of the other things, how much were you eating during this? Like you said, you ate some steak mostly, but give me an idea of the portion sizes, how much you can do it. If it's grams, pounds, whatever you're comfortable with, I can convert it. So it's not hard, but
currently?
Yeah. Or all along, like where did you start? Where are you at now?
At the start, I was probably eating about 250. Oh, actually, no, the steaks are 250. So half of that a meal, say about 125 grams in a meal. So I'd have 2 of those a day.
So 500 grams. So that's that's a little over a pound. So a little over a pound of meat a day. Okay, that's restarted.
And then maybe 2 or 4 egg yolks per day to go with the steak.
Okay. And then today, where are you at?
Yeah, probably a little bit more than that. I'll have a steak, so the 250 grams. And then for dinner, I'll probably have another half, so 125.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And a couple of egg yolks as well. Some days I have egg yolks, sometimes I don't.
So yeah, a little 1.5 to close under 2 pounds a day. That's a reasonable amount of food. And to think that you've lost all that weight, you were actually eating a little bit more than you were when you started, which is because you were living off some of your body fat was being used for fuel, I would for sure imagine. So let me talk about some of the other, you said mental health outlook better, life is better, skin is better, digestion's, but what got better? If you can just run through the list of things that got better for you, either objectively or subjectively.
Oh gosh, everything. The only thing that I'm on medication for my thyroid. I've got an underactive thyroid. I don't know if that'll ever change. I've had my levels checked and so there's no change there. That's really the only thing that hasn't improved. Everything in my life has improved. I've got my life back. There's no pain. I'm mobile. Yeah. Look at everything. I don't know I can't give you any negatives about my life right now. So,
were there any negatives to the diet when you started? Some people have digestive, they're running or loose stools or constipation type thing, headaches, lightheadedness, things like that. Any problems that you had during the diet or are experiencing now, or has it all been upside?
For the first few months, I did have an issue with digesting the fat. So I'd be on the toilet all the time. I'd have to be close to the toilet. I'd eat and pretty much be straight on the toilet. So that lasted probably a good 5 to 6 months. So I couldn't have any butter or anything like that. Not that I have a lot of butter, but yeah, just any fat on the meat would just make me go to the toilet straight away. But now that seems to have settled. I can eat a lot of fat now and it doesn't seem to faze me at all, which I'm really happy about. But apart from that, look, I was in such a bad way. People talk about oxalate dumping and things like that. I have no idea if I experienced any of that because I was in such a bad way anyway. So it didn't really affect me unusually. I mean, I just started feeling better straight away almost. So, yeah, I don't have any other negative side effects. Just the eating, trying to get the food down and keeping it down. I did have, like at the start, I used to bring up a lot of my meat because I just used to get stuck. But that seems to have stopped now. So, and I don't know when you publicly came out with what you're doing, because I know you are a little bit. How has it been a response? I can imagine there's got to be so much positive response. I can't imagine anybody having any negative to say. But have you interact with any other people that are struggling like you or very overweight, morbidly obese, reach out to you, or have you interact with any of those folks? Oh, yeah, for sure. Todd, the Carnival Cure, and me are doing a live every week now. We've done 2 already, and we just talk about life at 800 pounds and how we've transformed our life. And we had nearly, I think, 50 people or something last week. It lasted 5 hours. And look, it's just been amazing. We've had so much positive response. I've had a couple of naysayer people, like on my YouTube. I've been doing videos now for about 8 weeks. That's when I came out finally. My coaches just kept asking me, do you want to share your story? I'm like, no, but have you heard of Bill Knott?
I don't know that I have.
Bill Knott is currently around 700 pounds, and he reached out to Kerry from Homestead House.
Oh, he's in Alaska, right? Is he? Yes,
right.
Yes, I've heard a little bit about him. Yeah.
Yeah, so when he came out, I just thought I was there and I knew what he was going through. So I thought if I can share my story, maybe he'll hear that and that might help inspire him to know he's made a fantastic decision and it does work. And I believe Todd was the same from Carnivore Cure. He saw Bill's story as well and decided to. So we both came out at the same time. But prior to that, I knew nobody at this size. I think we were pretty unique. The unicorns in the room.
Yeah, I was going to say I interviewed Todd, I think maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, and I was quite amazed with his story and equally as impressed by yours. And how we're being told collectively as society that red meat is bad for us. We need to just limit or eliminate red meat. In some cases, it's bad for the environment. What is that messaging, given the sort of hindsight that you have now? That's literally what effectively more or less saved your life. What are your thoughts around people that say, hey, we should cut back on red meat to save the planet, or it's bad for your health? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't agree with it. Obviously, I've got my life back. It's made such a big difference in my life, so I definitely don't agree with that. But yeah, look, you can't tell people. If people are very pig-headed and they're set in their ways and they don't want to listen or open their mind to something different. So whether they're scared of it or for whatever reason they have, this is working for me and that's all I care about. And if they can do vegan or a balanced diet and it's working for them and they've got their health, then that's fantastic too. And I've got no issue with that. Don't give me a hard time about my choice. Obviously it's working. Just leave it at that. Yeah, I just don't have time for people that want to give me grief about it anymore.
Yeah, I'm just thinking we fast forward another generation, 20 years, and there's someone maybe in your situation, and red meat is not really available to them. It's like it's so incredibly expensive or it's difficult to obtain, may not even be possible, and then you're just stuck in that situation. And we know that the literature is pretty clear, when people give up meat, i.e. plant-based, vegan, they eat more ultra-processed food. The people that eat the most processed food right now are vegans, and the studies indicate that. That's just what happens, despite what their intentions are to eat a whole food plant-based diet. But most people that go vegan end up eating more ultra-processed food. And so when you take meat out of the equation, you take butter out of the equation, you replace it with margarine. You take meat out of the equation, you replace it with some god-awful creation that pretends it's meat. So it's very challenging to see. Do you, as far as you said you've got a certain goal you want to get to. Do you mind sharing where do you think you want to be before you feel like, hey, I've really made it? And because the naysayers will say we're gonna in 5 years from now, Lindy's going to be back up to 600 pounds, and this is all just regression to the mean. How does this feel different to you from other times? Did you ever successfully? You said you yo-yoed, and so maybe this is just another yo-yo. Why do you think that's not the case?
I've never been successful on a diet. I've only lasted a couple of days. I've lasted 22 months on this diet. To me, it's sustainable. And it's not a diet. This is my lifestyle. This is forever. So unless my health suddenly deteriorates or something happens, I won't be changing. This is the way I plan to eat for the rest of my life. So that's how I feel right now, and I won't digress from that. Yeah, the difference is that I consider this a lifestyle, and they do say, oh, what happens when you stop eating meat? I'm not going to stop eating my meat. So that's not even going to be an option.
Yeah, there's something that's interesting because like anybody will say, if you stop the drug or you stop the diet, it's going to you're going to regress, which is largely true in many cases. And the question is, with a lot of diets, you gut it out with willpower. You eat the cardboard, the low-fat stuff that doesn't really taste good anyway. But the weird thing about meat is it does taste good. And particularly when you include enough fat in there, it's satiating, it's satisfying, you don't feel like you're being deprived. Do you feel like you're being deprived now of nutrition in any way, or do you feel pretty satisfied?
Absolutely. Like I said before, like when I was eating other stuff, whether it be my balanced diet or my vegan or having my shakes, I always had to, I'd be like satiated for half an hour and then my mind's going, what are we going to have next? I never felt satiated after that. So I was always thinking about food, literally 24/7. Now I have my steak, my brain switches off and I don't think about food until hours later. And when I'm hungry, I just eat more meat and then that turns off again. And then I go off and enjoy my life. I've never had that off switch before with any diet that I had.
Yeah, I can imagine you on the juice fast. I remember there was a show, I think it was I can't remember the name, but there's a guy that was juicing from, he was an Australian guy and he came to America and he just juiced and juiced and juiced. And with that, I can imagine juicing a bunch of vegetables and then drinking that and then thinking you're going to be satisfied with that. You tried that, and I think you said, did you try that or no? I don't know if you did.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a NutriBullet where you just put all your veggies in and purees everything up.
And you drink, I get it.
And it tasted terrible.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, because I tried those a few times. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe people actually drink this stuff. It was actually foul. But yeah, thinking you're going to be satisfied with that is just insane. It really is. If you think about it, humans want to eat to a point of satisfaction. And the ultra-processed food doesn't get you there very quickly. You got to eat a lot of it. And the juiced vegetables never get you there. And so it's either...
And they say, oh, it tastes so good. And you think, this tastes terrible. I think they convince themselves that it tastes good.
They dump a bunch of sugar in it, right? If they dump enough sugar in there, they can make it taste,
Oh, yeah, heaps of apple because apple's quite sweet. So you just chuck it full of apple and, there's your sugar. So
exactly.
And then sugar just addicts you even more. You just want to keep eating after that.
Yeah. Interesting things. Do you feel like you've gotten stronger? You said you still have pretty significant hip pain, but is your pain overall down in the body? Did you feel like you're in less pain now than you were 500 pounds ago? I can't even believe I could even say that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Definitely. I don't have any, like I'm sitting here now, I'm not in any pain at all. The only time I get pain is when I'm walking for a long time. My lower back starts to get hurt a little bit in my hip. But apart from that, I've got no pain at all.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
If I continue, that'll just keep improving as I keep losing weight and as I'm eating the right food, I'm hoping that will just continue to improve.
Yeah, like I said, hopefully you can get to where you can start strengthening things because strengthening the joints will help to protect them further. So that's not off the table yet. I think if you're thinking about you're sitting there and you said January 2021, and so probably let's say, I don't know, November of 2020, you're sitting there and like your outlook on life, I don't know what it was versus maybe your outlook on now. Did you think much about the future at 800 pounds? Was there much of a future for you? And
I had no future at all. I was just waiting to die. I would go to bed and hope that I wouldn't wake up the next morning. That's how bad I was. I was desperate. Now, unfortunately, I lost my job, but due to AI, it's just taken over and me and about 20 riders have got the sack. But I've decided I'm going to, I haven't turned to carbs with this news. And that's a life-changing thing. I threw myself into work to not have to deal with life. And I just thought, okay, I've lost my job. All right, I'm going to take 3 months off. I'm going to concentrate on my health. I'm going to go out and do some walking and I'm doing the SBG protocol. I've started priming again. I'm on week 2 of that and I'm going to start doing some fasting, try and get some autophagy in. So for 3 months, I'm just going to focus on me and then I'll worry about work later. So I couldn't have done that 22 months ago. I would have just given up. If I hadn't had that news 22 months ago, I wouldn't be here today. I would not have been able to cope with that. So just having that no brain fog and that crystal clear, my brain is just working. I can actually stop and think, okay, these are my choices and I've just made better decisions. I haven't faltered at all. Who could have done that at 800 pounds? So it's just been life-changing all round. The whole process has been just so healing, not only physically but mentally as well. So
That's amazing. That's awesome. Like I said, I've been doing this for many years now and talking about this and trying to encourage people to try that. Maybe not everybody needs to do it, and maybe it's not right for everybody, but gosh, for the people that it's been beneficial for, it's literally been a godsend. And to think that it could one day not be a possibility or made impossible for people to do is really scary to me. Now you said you share a channel with Todd, or you're doing some stuff online. Where can people go to find out more about you? Because it's fascinating. I'm sure there'll be people that maybe are in similar situations that want some hope and can look what you've done or others like you have done. Where do they go? How do they find out about this? Get more information.
Yeah, well, I started a YouTube channel about 8 weeks ago at Limitless Lindy, and just on Instagram as well. I post a couple of things on Instagram, again, at symbol Limitless Lindy. So, yeah.
Let me go find you there on Instagram, give you a follow, because I'm like I said, I can use you as yet another wonderful example of people that have literally changed their lives with this. So, Limitless
Lindy. Yeah.
Lindy. There you are. I see you. Okay. Now you're following me already. Good for you. Good job. No, I'm kidding.
Of course I am. And look, hang on. Sorry. Let me skip my desk. Look what I've got.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Good job. That's good product placement. Thank you for that. Yeah. No, I'd say, like I said, I wrote that book, and I don't know that I would change much of anything about it. I think it's a pretty straightforward, this is what you need to know thing. I think it's been good. And fortunately, it's still very popular. People are still buying it, and people are still using it. As carnivore grows, which it is, I think there's no doubt about it, it is changing so many people's lives for the better, I think. But anyway, Lindy, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to your morning because it's a new day happy Friday morning to you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And I will look forward to continue to follow along with your journey. And when you reach your goal, whatever that may be, once you hook back up and we'll talk, and we can, because you're still in progress, although you've made such incredible progress. Gosh, it's already a win. But when you get to your goal, reach back out and we'll talk again, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm hoping to get down to the US one day. I need to meet Bella.
Yeah, Bella, they live like 15 minutes from me. I see them my son, in fact, takes piano lessons from her fellow Max, the steak and butter, I guess he calls steak and butter guy, maybe. Yeah. So I see him all the time. I see Bella every now and again. So anyway, thank you, Lindy, and for the rest of you guys that came in at this late hour. And I see Lark there from Australia. We usually have an Australian contingent when we do these meetings this time of day. So anyway, good for you.
Lovely. Thanks. Nice meeting you.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye, guys. Take care.